What is up, cool kids? I'm Cool Trainer Gavin, and today is finally the day Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon have come out today. I have my copy. My unboxing went up earlier today, so definitely check that out. That'll be up in the cards. So to kick off, not to kick off. That's not the right word. To send off the last Pokemon games, main series Pokemon games anyway, on the 3DS. And really any handheld system, because say what you will, the Switch is not a handheld system. It's like a handheld hybrid home console. I consider it more of a home console anyway. I don't see myself walking around outside with it, playing it on like a bus or something. I'm afraid I'd get robbed. But anyway, that's something different. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to count down. Yes, I'm doing a countdown. I've not done a countdown since maybe the first month that my channel existed. I'm doing a countdown of my favorite generations of Pokemon. So I'm going to list all of them in order. Now, being a man of science, I couldn't just, list them willy-nilly, just come up with just a list and give, I kind of like this one better than this one. That's not how I fly. So what I did is I came up with a metric of five, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, of 5. I even wrote them in a book. So it's not science unless you write it down. But a matrix of 5 things that I ranked each game in from 1 to 7. And the total gave me my favorite Pokemon generations, which I think it's a cool list. I think it's a cool way to do it, as opposed to just, thinking, oh, I like this one better than this one. So it gives you an actual way to discern, your favorites. Similar to, a favorite Pokemon picker online, which I did. There's a website where you can do that. I did that maybe a couple months ago. So with that, let's get into it. And I'm not going to explain why I put every game or every generation in every spot. I'm going to explain probably the number 1, number 7, and then any special cases that I have, just for time's sake. Also, it's really important that I'm not considering the remakes in this, because not every gen has one. So I'm not considering Fire Red, Leaf Green, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, or Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. But I will be including games like Yellow, Crystal, Emerald, Platinum, Black 2, White 2. There wasn't like a second game in the generation for Gen 6, and I won't be considering Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon because I have not played them yet. So with that, let's get into it. So number 1 is Pokemon. This is pretty much just a broad thing based on, A, designs of Pokemon, B, the number of Pokemon. That sort of plays a factor, not as much of a factor, as well as, how much these Pokemon what am I looking for? Contributed, that's the word, to the competitive battle scene. Not even just top tier OU threats, because OU is not the only thing there is. Whether it's, great Uber's threats, great UU threats, things like that. So here is my list from 1 to 7 of all the Pokemon generations listed in terms of how good I think their Pokemon were. For me, Gen 3 was amazing. Gen 3 has probably some of my favorite Pokemon in it. It's got Rayquaza is my favorite legendary. I have a plush of it over there that I wear when I stream, which I'll get back to doing at some point. Zangoose, my mascot, is from Gen 3. Tropius, also my favorite Pokemon, also from Gen 3. Gen 3 brought us a lot of really interesting things, Pokemon-wise. They just had cool designs. I think that comes from Gen 3 having many types of environments in Hoenn, which I'll get to that in a little bit. But we have jungles, we have deserts, which lets us, not us, lets people that design the Pokemon be a little creative and be pretty broad with their Pokemon designs. Gen 2, I just don't really like Gen 2 Pokemon that much, to be perfectly honest. They just don't really do it for me. There weren't that many. I think there was 100. But they just don't seem very memorable to me, other than the legendaries. No Pokemon sticks out to me as man, that's a good Pokemon, besides Tyranitar. Blissey's alright, but other than that, they just don't really do it for me. The second factor for me ranking these gens is the region. So everything from like how creative it was, how unique it was compared to the other regions. Was it all just one kind of landscape, or was it several different kinds? Was it a lot of clustered things together? Was it spaced out well enough? Those are just some general things that I thought about, as well as the overall aesthetic. And it is really important to note that for all of these, I'm considering them, at the time they were made. If I were comparing Red and Blue to Sun and Moon on almost everything, like aesthetics, game mechanics, pretty much everything, Red and Blue would probably lose. But it's just the fact that, they've been out for 20 years, and 20 years ago we did not have even close to the technology we had today. So that is something that I also factored into all of these. So with that, here's my list of gens based on their region. I loved Kalos. Kalos is my favorite region. It was long, it wasn't spaced out. It seems like every turn there was something to do. There was a lot of different environments. There was a really big, really arid area in central Kalos. You had a nice coastal area, as well as toward the end of the game where you find Friend Safari and things like that, a tropical area, even though you couldn't really walk around and do a ton of stuff there. So I really just I think the size of it was really good. I loved how big it was. I think it was the perfect size. It was big enough without things being too far in between them. Although the beginning of the game did take quite a while. The rest of the game I think was paced out very well, and I think a big part of that was the spacing of the region. Now we get to Gen 5. I honestly don't know really what it is about Unova. I just don't think it was laid out very well. I think the part of it is that it's literally just like a shape. I want to say, how many sides does it have? It's got a bottom, one, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's basically just an elongated hexagon with a couple, there's a town down below, but it's basically just a geometric shape, which isn't realistic. 2, it's it just seemed way too linear. There wasn't enough to do in between. It was just oh, you go from this town to this town, this town to this town, this town to this town. You just go around the map without any real side things to do. And that was for the technology at the time, I feel like that's something that could have really done. I feel like it just seemed kind of rushed, I have Generation 2 listed as number 2 in this section because as much as I don't really like Johto all that much, I had to rank it above Gen 1 because you can go to Kanto. That's pretty much the only reason. And I knew I wanted Gen 1 pretty high because I love Kanto. And considering the technology they had at the time, they did the best by far that they could have, in my opinion. So including that as well as a brand new region makes Gen 2 better than Gen 1 in that sense for me. Third factor that I accounted for when picking these generations was the use of graphics. Now this one, like I said, is very important that I consider at the time they were made. Because use of graphics, obviously, Gen 7 would blow every other gen out of the water because the cutscenes look fantastic. They use their graphics really, really well. But they don't score, they score middle on this list just because they went a little too happy with them. They did a little too much with them, especially with the cutscenes, but we talked about that, I think Wednesday we talked about that. Going to Gen 4. Gen 4, I think, being the first Pokemon games on the Nintendo DS, the original DS, they used the DS's format really, really well in that it gave it some depth without being too extra about it, like Gen 5 was. Where did I put Gen 5 on this list? The bottom. Shocker. They used spatial 3D. Their shadows and textures looked really good on everything, but without trying too hard, which is what I think Gen 5 did. Playing Gen 5, even I played it, I have a copy of, I think, Black still. Yeah, I have Black. But I played it in my 3DS, and even on that, everything just looked really pixely. And considering that it was made, I think those were made in 2010, I believe. but it just didn't seem right to me. A lot of, especially around Castelia City, a lot of the aspects for stuff, the 3D cinematic stuff that they tried to do, just didn't look very good to me. So I think they definitely could have used the graphics a lot better. The cutscenes looked pretty well from what I remember. We haven't gotten to too many of those in the Volt White randomizer yet, but we'll see when we get there, I guess. Maybe this will change. But I feel like for two games that used the same hardware, Gen 4 looked a lot better. I feel like they really took a step back when they went from Gen 4 to Gen 5. The fourth factor on my list is the plot. The entire plot line. Now this takes into account the evil team, the use of the evil team, how close they came, I guess, to achieving their goal, and basically mostly stuff with the evil team, but for games where they weren't as involved, I also included some things just like pacing, as well as some interpersonal connections that you get between the other characters. Gen 7, I loved it. I mean, most people didn't really see it as a plot twist with Aether Foundation being the evil team. But I don't know how I didn't see this, but like when it was like, oh, Lusamine is, spoilers, what is this? Am I sweating? I'm sweating a little bit. But when it was like, Lusamine is Lily's mom, I was like, what? And then when it was like, oh, Gladian is Lily's brother. As well as the whole family dynamic between Lily, Gladian, and Lusamine, I feel like that went really well for me, and I love Team Skull, as goofy as they might be, and as bad at being bad as they are. I really like Team Skull. They were really good comic relief. They didn't overdo it, which is a really big thing for me, but I really enjoyed all the parts that they were in. I've been kind of ripping on Gen 5 for a lot of this video, but I really like Gen 5's plot, so I want to talk about that for a little bit and why I ranked it second. Because Getsus, at least in Black and White, not necessarily Black 2, White 2, but in Black and White, Getsus basically did what he wanted to do. Like, he beat the champion. The only reason why the player won was because he or she happened to possess the stone that contained Reshiram or Zakram. I remember, I think I lost. Did I lose to Getsus the first time? That was a hard battle. But I think it's really cool how you have to like go through the Elite Four, then go through Getsus's like palace mansion whatever thing, and then before you beat the game, I'm pretty sure you have to go through and beat the Elite Four again and then beat Alder. So I really like the way the game ended, as well as just like the pacing throughout it, because you saw just enough of Team Plasma to make them relevant and keep them in your mind, but not so much that they were like kind of annoying, and not too little that you were just like, why are they here? What are they doing? And I rank Gen 6 last in this one because all the story happens, like I would say probably 80% of the storyline happens between the 7th and 8th gym. When you go to Lysander's cafe in Lumio City. Maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but I would say at least 70% of the plot happens there. Because you go to the cafe, you fight through all these bad people, you spin around some conveyor belts and stuff, and then you fight all the admins basically in a row, and then you fight Lysander twice in a span of like half an hour, 45 minutes of gameplay, which makes no sense to me. Then you catch you play him once at the beginning, spin around, do some stuff, fight the admins. You catch the legendary, or kill the legendary, whichever, and then you fight Lysander again, and then basically the story's over, more or less. I think you have to. Then I think you go and shut down the ultimate weapon. But Team Flare's just so absent. Like you see them maybe 3 or 4 times before that, in like an actual way that you're like encountering them, not just seeing them on the side of the road. So Team Flare, I think, was just a really lacking team for me. And I think they sort of overdid it also with all your like companion people. I really liked Serena, I really liked Shauna, but I really didn't get why Tierno and Trevor were there. They just kind of didn't really do it for me, you know? So that's why I ranked Gen 6 as last. So the fifth and final factor that I included in my evaluation of all these were new features. Now I want to throw something out there immediately, is that I put, oh, there they are. I put Gen 1 in the middle, directly in the middle, because I didn't really know what to do with it because, you know, everything was new in Gen 1. So you might argue that you know, that should make it number 1 on the list, but it also had a lot of things that it had that were later fixed because they weren't good. So it did have completely new features, but also had some features that were just bad. Every game does. But this one, I just thought it was fair to put it in the middle because it would neither hurt it nor help it stay in things. So I ranked Gen 4 as the first on this list because it gave us so many new features, such as online play. Online play was one of the biggest things to ever happen in Pokemon, and while it was not really fleshed out until Gen 5, it was just the start of what Pokemon is now, and that's a truly global game where you can play with somebody across the world at a moment's notice. Gen 4 also gave us the physical special split, which made so many more Pokemon that had not seen a ton of usage in a couple gens so much better. Like Gengar, before Gen 4, both of Gengar's stab types were physical, which makes Gengar a lot less usable. But when Gen 4 came around, Shadow Ball and Sludge Bomb were special moves, which makes it so it can actually use its base 130 special attack. So Pokemon like Gyarados as well, where its special attack isn't great, but its physical attack is. Where before Gen 4, all water moves were special, but now it gets things like Waterfall and Aqua Tail to make use of its physical attack. So that's also something that Pokemon would not be nearly the same if that had not been implemented. And then Gen 2, it offered some new things, like held items was something that, you know, revolutionized a lot of things, like including like evolution methods as well as competitive stuff. But other than that, they added the Dark and Steel type as well. That's pretty much all there was. So I just, those things, don't get me wrong, those things are incredibly useful, and obviously we still use them today. But at the same time, there was not much else new, and I feel like those things are valued less than some of the other things that I've talked about on this list. So to wrap things up, we have our complete list right here with Gen 4 coming in with 27 total points, Gens 1 and 5 tying for second place with 22, Gen 3 coming in 4th with 21, Gen 6 coming in 5th with 19, Gen 2 coming in 6th with 15, and Gen 5 coming in last with 14. I think that's a pretty good margin. Gen 4 won by 5 points, so I think that's pretty significant to me. I made a list beforehand just of what I thought it would end up being, but after I probably spent half an hour at least thinking about each of these sections and how to, you know, grade them. I have a ton of stuff that I had at first crossed out because I'm like, no, originally I had Gen 2 higher in the new features because of held items and 2 new types, especially types that are as good as they are. But I ended up valuing like usable features as opposed to Pokemon features better than or like higher than stuff like new typing. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what your favorite regions are down below in the comments. Smash that thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and that's not how I do my outro. If you enjoyed this video as much as I did, please like and or subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at CoolTrainerGav, and until next time, smile later. Quick bit of housekeeping stuff. I am not putting up videos this weekend, even though I said, you know, 2 weeks of Ultra and Ultra Moon content. I'm not putting up anything this weekend, mostly just to give me time to make the videos for next week, because I'm only here at school with my computer for until Tuesday. I leave Tuesday night. So I'm going to be recording and editing and rendering everything and uploading everything so you guys have content for next week. So sorry for the no stuff this weekend, but the stuff for next week, it's looking pretty tight. So please be excited for that, and let me know what you're thinking of Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. I have not played it yet, but I'm literally dying to. So I'm actually probably gonna go play it right now. But once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.